Hey, what's up there? This is Cody the Coin Raptor, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about Michael Saylor buying in the dip, as well as what's going on with whales and miners, and whether or not this could be seen as a buying opportunity. But before we get to that, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, be sure to hit that share button, and leave a comment below if there's something you want me to take a look at. Definitely would appreciate it. So Bitcoin has been at about 64K, kind of sitting in this almost like a neutral zone, not really going anywhere, mostly going sideways, though the overall short-term trend tends to be down right now. Again, from Bitcoin's almost double top pattern here, it's come all the way down to about 64K. And in my own personal opinion, the levels that I'm looking for Bitcoin here are going to be supports at about 64K, and again here at about 63K. Now, I said before that Michael Saylor has had another big impact on the market. In fact, he actually went and made a post here and said that Microstrategy has acquired another about almost 12,000 Bitcoin for $786 million. Okay, so Michael Saylor announcing MicroStrategy continues to buy Bitcoin. Now they have a total of 226,000 Bitcoin, okay, at about $8 billion. So this is continuing to be an example, I think, of the buy and hold kind of mentality, the dollar cost average mentality. Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy continue to buy Bitcoin and buy Bitcoin and buy Bitcoin. In this case, they were buying at about $65,000 or so. They're not concerned about any of this stuff. They look at the charts and they think this is all noise. And as long as you zoom out and you take a look at the long-term trend, the long-term chart for Bitcoin, it does continue to be higher and higher and higher. In fact, if you go ahead and take a look at this, you can see that on the long-term chart, Bitcoin continues to push higher and make new highs and new highs and new highs as long as your time horizon is long enough. And so that's an idea that I wanted to explore today, and that is, does it make sense for the average person to buy Bitcoin right now and then hold it for the long term? Now, this is not financial advice, and honestly, you should do your own research, and I'm just one person on YouTube. But when it comes down to it, it's undeniable the fact that Bitcoin is an appreciating asset, and the simple fact is that not only is it an appreciating asset, but it's an asset that will protect your purchasing power into the future. So as long as the government will be printing money and devaluing your currency, then then Bitcoin will always be incredibly strong. Bitcoin has the power to continue to push higher and restore your purchasing power. And that's one of the things that Michael Saylor talks about. He talks about the fact that it's digital gold, it is digital property, and it will continue to accumulate, especially when you factor in the fact that the supply is very limited. Okay, again, 21 million Bitcoin, that's as much as there will ever be ever in our lifetimes. It's programmed into the system. It is infallible. There's no way that that can be overridden. So 21 million forever, and even less than that. I've actually made several videos in which I've talked about that, and one specific video in which I've talked about as much of the Bitcoin that's been lost forever. And it's so, in short, the TLDR for that is that there's even less than 21 million Bitcoin available. So that's the Michael Saylor MicroStrategy DCA. And in fact, again, they have a price of about $36,000 per Bitcoin. So again, they're up pretty nicely over the entirety of their purchases, even though they bought up here and they bought down here and they bought up here. So they're buying around all over the place, but 36,000 is actually a pretty dang good. That's a pretty good average for Bitcoin. If you look at and you just draw a straight line through the last couple of years, you can see that that's where you would expect it to be here. So about 36K around here. So as long as Bitcoin remains above 36K, it's looking like a pretty dang good investment for Michael Saylor. So that's one side of the argument. That's kind of the bullish side of the argument. The other side of it here is that we've seen significant sales over the past couple of weeks, and that has been coming from our Bitcoin spot ETF The net outflows from the Bitcoin spot ETFs have been significant over the past about a week or so, and we continue to see that play out. The simple fact is that these firms that are buying Bitcoin, they're actually buying the ETF and then selling it, and then now there are more sellers than buyers, and that tends to drag down the Bitcoin price. So you can see here that Bitcoin has been greatly impacted by all these sellers coming in from about the start here of June all the way until where we are here at about the 23rd. It doesn't say for the 23rd, but we're at about the 20th or so for the data. But if you take a look at our Bitcoin chart TA, you can see here that over the past couple of weeks that these sellers have had a significant impact on the price. They keep pushing the price down again. And so, there's a lot of naysayers when it comes to Bitcoin. It's not something that you can physically touch. So people tend to think that it's magic internet money, but it is a way of securing your digital future. At least that's my own opinion. I do believe it is also digital gold. So, but there are some challenges ahead, and simply put, part of those challenges is getting adoption and getting recognition, and we're already starting to see adoption and recognition play out, especially with these the approval of the spot ETFs that we've seen so far. But nevertheless, the spot ETFs are providing right now a little bit of an anchor on the price. Okay, so we have all these sellers here, not to mention that, but we also have Bitcoin miners as well that have been selling. So Bitcoin miners, if you take a look at the miners reserve, you can see here that they actually they started from a high of around December 28th. They started from a high of 1,858,261 Bitcoin, and now they're sitting at about 1,815,485 Bitcoin. So do some quick math here. That is about 42,535 Bitcoin from the peak that they had that they've sold off. So over 40,000 Bitcoin miners have sold in about 6 months. Now, I think that's pretty enormous, honestly. And it's not that surprising when you consider the fact that the halving happened, and when the halving happened, the miners are getting less rewards. They're earning less for the work that they're performing, and so they're having to sell more and more and more Bitcoin, and that's what we saw, especially as that halving happened in April. It kind of continued the sell-off for Bitcoin. So right now, miners have been dragging the Bitcoin price down because they need to pay their bills, and they need to sell, and they're trying to sell while the prices are still high. So that's the reason why we've seen another kind of weight on the Bitcoin price. Now, that being said, if we take a look at our buyers, I want to go ahead and we talked about sellers, right? Now I want to go ahead and change gears, and I want to talk about buyers, especially from the bullish perspective. Buyers have been gobbling up Bitcoin kind of at amazing rates here. So if you look at the Bitcoin Exchange Reserve, you can see here that Exchange Reserve, we started off the year at about 3 million or so Bitcoin in the exchange in exchanges, and now we're down to about 2.8 million. So we've seen 200,000 Bitcoin demand over about 6 months or so. So there's definitely been more buyers than there has been sellers of Bitcoin, and that's the reason why it went all the way up to 73K. But the simple fact is, this is a long-term trend, and this is a long-term trend that will continue. This is part of Michael Saylor's Bitcoin bullish strategy, essentially, is that there's just eventually there's not going to be as much Bitcoin for the average person to purchase or even whales to purchase, and as a result, they're going to have to end up spending more money for that Bitcoin. So I think that this is part of the bullish thesis for Bitcoin. Now, there's also a large number of whales that have been buying as well, with Michael Saylor being one of them. But if you look at your whale addresses, the balances for your whale addresses, you can see that over from the 20th to the 21st, there was some pretty significant buying and increasing of Bitcoin in these whale wallets. So it's not just sellers. There are some whales that have been buying, and there are some whales that have been selling. A lot of the sellers are coming over from the traditional Bitcoin spot ETF realm, and the miners and the buyers have been a lot of these whales and people like Michael Saylor who have been trying to buy the dip on Bitcoin. So My own opinion on this right now is that Bitcoin is becoming very quickly oversold. We have the daily RSI sitting right now at 36. Once it hits 30, that's oversold conditions. And it hasn't been this low in some time. In fact, if we look back in our history, the last time it was this low was early May, about the 1st or so of May, when we had that kind of flash crash for Bitcoin. So that's what I'm looking at right now. I am interested in buying my Bitcoin and adding to my position, preferably under 60K. And it is a possibility we will get Bitcoin under 60K. I do believe that's a possibility. But there's a lot of levels of support that it has to go through first. 64, 63, and then it has to get through 60, about 61K support right here. And then Bitcoin is going to probably wind up doing another kind of, if it does go below that level, you'd see kind of another similar kind of flash crash here, in which you have one day in which it gets sold off and then it immediately springs back up again. So I am going to be waiting, again, patiently for that opportunity to add to my bags for Bitcoin. I am in no rush, and as long as Bitcoin continues to go sideways above 60K, I am not really that interested in adding to my stores. But if it goes below 60K, that's a different story. And I'll be making a video about it. I'll be talking about my methodology and how exactly I would handle that. So make sure you guys are subscribed, so that way I'll go ahead and make a video about it, and you guys will know. Also follow me on Twitter or X. I'll have that posted as soon as I make those transactions. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the long-term holder behavior. So long-term holders have also been increasing their position as well. Long-term holders are wallets that have held Bitcoin for more than 155 days, and they're actually making up for about 78% of the total Bitcoin supply. Okay, so they've stopped selling. Long-term holders have stopped selling, and now instead they're increasing their position. So I think that's actually good. That's definitely a good sign. And I also want to talk about Bitcoin options, because we're coming close to the end of the month. And when you get close to the end of the month, the June 28th, you start to see all these options expire. So options expiry, we have a max pain price actually got bumped up from the last time I talked about this. Now it's at 57,000. So that 57,000 mark is going to be kind of like a magnet for the Bitcoin price by the end of the month. And again, we're about 5 days or so off from that. Something to keep in mind. However, there are about $4.5 billion worth of call options and about $2.3 billion worth of put options that are going to be expiring on the 28th. And I'm going to talk about this more as this day gets closer, but this is just something to keep in mind. All right. So let me know what you guys think. If you think that Michael Saylor has the correct strategy, or if you like his strategy, or if you would really instead prefer to just try and time the tops and the bottoms instead of doing a dollar cost average, let me know. Leave a comment below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.